studying for finals. Pure darkness, nothing but a flashlight. 40-degree heat, no air conditioning. What if I threw in the threat of theft along your way to class? Crowded buses where your backpack is bound to be stolen. Police harassment on your way home. And the constant fear that death is just one wrong street, person, or bus ride away. That is the reality for 95% of students in the Congo. By a show of hands, can I ask how many of us here are students today? Quite a few. I'm just gonna take a wild guess at your daily routine. Take a stab at it here. You wake up, first thing you do, grab your cell phones from your nightstands, check your notifications, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be. You make your way to class. Many of you probably take public transit, TTC. Others have the luxury of coming here in your own cars. Throughout the semester, you worry about the typical stuff, typical student stuff, getting good grades, getting your assignments in on time, hanging out with friends, the occasional Starbucks for that much-needed caffeine boost. You make your way home, maybe you keep up with the Kardashians or stream a Raptors game, live in HD. Because I mean, why not, right? The electricity is just always on. Now imagine if your life were the complete opposite of this. No Wi-Fi, no electricity, no safety, and not even a pumpkin-spiced latte. That is the daily life for my students in the Congo. What do all these numbers have in common? These are various global rankings for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. As you can see, I live in one of the world's most poorest and dangerous countries. So why do I continue to live in such a precarious place? Just 2 years ago, I graduated law school from Los Angeles, California, where I thought I would be working in Hollywood, doing contracts for celebrities as an entertainment lawyer, glamorous movie star parties at night. Little did I know I would eventually end up in Africa, of all places, serving as a visiting professor. How did I get to the Congo? I met my husband here in Canada in high school, and we actually began dating right here at this very university. He was born and raised in the Congo, but fled the country in 1998 to Canada when a war had broken out, a war better known as the Second Congo War, deadliest conflict worldwide since World War II. 10 years after moving to Canada and graduating UTSC himself, he moved back to the Congo to continue his family business, where eventually he dragged me along with him. Now, if you do a quick Google search on your phones, just type in the Congo, you'll likely see tons of the same Google image results. Child soldiers, war, poverty, genocide, conflict minerals. I mean, the list goes on. But today's talk won't be about any of these things that we commonly think of when we think of Africa. Today, I want to bring life to a new face of the Congo, and that new face is the face of my students. Everyday, typical, hardworking university students, just like you. They aren't child soldiers, they aren't war rebels, and they certainly don't walk around with combat boots and machetes like CNN might make you think. They're just everyday students who love hanging out with friends, listening to music, watching movies. And who knows, if they could or if they knew how, maybe they would Netflix and chill too. This is Rodney and Anita, just two of the many students that I teach in the Congo who have the same inspiring stories of the challenges they face each day just to get to class, just to earn the same degree as you. They are part of the reason why I continue to be so passionate about teaching and living in such a precarious place. And they're both gonna help me tell my story today. Now, I think all of us in this room here today can agree that education is such a powerful tool. After all, it offers you the chance to get a good job, start a career, independence, but education also serves as a powerful catalyst for change. And for a country like the Congo, which ranks at the bottom of every single major scale, I believe that that change begins and ends with education. As Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful tool to change the world. Kinshasa is the capital of the DRC. It's where I live. It's a city of about 14 million. Most of our universities are located at the heart of the city. Unfortunately, my students can't afford to live at the heart of the city, so they live on the outskirts of town. It takes them hours each day just to commute to class. Most of our classes actually finish during the evening hours, so my students make their way home throughout the dark hours of the night. What they fear most about this dark commute home is known as kalunas. Kalunas are gang members known to thrive on the outskirts of town, just waiting to terrorize young, vulnerable, innocent students on their way home. They're usually armed, intoxicated, and always dangerous. So, as you can see, I live in a country where gangs are an issue, right? But you must be thinking, well, with the threat of gangs, then what are the police doing, right? I'm gonna let my students, Anita and Rodney, tell you what the police are doing.
And one day I was threatened by the police when I was coming from school. They asked me for my ID, they wanted to control my bag, and I refused, and it took us much time of discussion, and I feel myself being unsafe.
It was a little dark. I was going home, and policemen in the corner of the street harassed me. There were so many, they just caught me by surprise, and they said I had beer and whiskey inside of my bag. So they took my bag by force, they teased me, and they started kind of seeing everything inside. They took everything that was money, and they left the other things. Yeah, it was kind of a bad experience. I'm still affected today.
As Rodney explains, it's a common occurrence for students to be threatened and even robbed by police officers on their way home. Could you imagine finishing class tomorrow on your way home wondering if you'll be robbed by police officers or slaughtered by gang members? TTC does not look so bad now, does it? I used to cringe every single time I checked out of the bookstore here. $200 for a textbook. Are you kidding me? It wasn't until I graduated and I started teaching myself that I finally understood the value of these textbooks. They really do enrich your entire educational experience. And the books that you have here are a far cry from what's available in the Congo. Due to incurred cost of shipping and printing, published textbooks are virtually non-existent. So as you can imagine, as a new professor like myself in Africa, I thought, how do I teach a class without a textbook? As I was developing my syllabus, I then thought to myself, aha, genius, I'll just use the internet. So I went online looking for articles, websites, journals, anything I could use as class readings. My first day of class, as I'm distributing my syllabus, I then get quizzical looks from my students. It was then that I shockingly learned that about 90% of my students cannot afford a computer or a laptop. They walk for miles each night just to get to an internet cafe so that they can access a computer, to do some schoolwork, some research, maybe check up on their email. Of the lucky 10% of my students who do have access to a computer, they will tell you that internet access in the Congo is astronomically expensive. As Ronnie will tell you in just a few seconds, having internet in the Congo is the equivalent of owning a piece of wealth.
I learned a lot on internet. And here in Congo, having internet is like having a piece of wealth. It's very difficult to have internet, it's expensive, and if you have it like after 12 a.m., and it's not very easy to access. And even if you have easy access to internet, it's not high connection as it would be in America, so it's kind of blocks from having videos from courses and things online.
Just to give you perspective, it costs about $60 USD for about 50 gigabytes of internet data. Now, for the average family of four struggling to get by on just $100 a month, you can see that internet then becomes an extreme luxury. Funny enough, Rodney here today is the star of my TED Talk, and he doesn't even have the internet to stream it live. So why is internet so expensive in the Congo? Well, first, basic cost. Congo does not own any of its own satellites, so we purchase data from other countries and resell it locally through multiple channels. Second, complete lack of infrastructure. Lack of infrastructure for fiber optic cables, meaning high-speed internet in the Congo, is virtually non-existent. So the next time that, you're streaming Game of Thrones or uploading your Snapchat stories, just remember that in the year of 2016, some of my students have no idea what this sound even means.
Well, before talking about internet, we need to have electricity and a computer. Even if you have a computer here, we lack electricity. For my case, I have kind of 20% of time for electricity, and as almost everything I do is based on the computer, so it's very limiting.
Now, aside from the internet, those who have traveled to Africa will tell you about the lack of electricity. The World Bank estimates that only 9% of the entire Congolese population has access to electricity. And of those 9%, power outages are the norm. For my students who live on the outskirts of town, they will tell you that they experience power outages for over 80% of the year. Could you imagine going more than half the year without electricity? As Ronnie just told you right now, he barely has electricity for 20% of the year. So the next time you're around campus here trying to fight for that study spot with an outlet so you can charge your devices, please think of my friend Rodney, who barely has access to electricity for 20% of the year. Now, at this point, you must be wondering, well, with the threat of gangs, police corruption, lack of internet, electricity, textbooks, could it really get any worse for students in the Congo? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. What if I told you about professor corruption? My first day of class, as I was developing my course syllabus and distributing my syllabus, one of my students had approached me casually on the side. She said, "Professor, how much money would it take to pass your course?" I was confused. I said, "What do you mean, how much money would it take to pass my course?" I spent the entire semester just wondering what she meant by this, and it wasn't until I interviewed Rodney again for this very TED Talk that I finally got my shocking answer.
Studying in Kinshasa is another problem. When you're a student here and you want to earn grades, everything depends on the teacher. It doesn't depend on you or on the way you're working to earn the grades. The teacher comes, they teach you something you have to memorize and then to reproduce when they ask you questions for quiz. But even when you reproduce exactly as they want you to do, at the end, they still want some money from you. You have to bribe to earn good grades or to earn your grades. And if you don't do that, they say, "Oh, well, if you didn't do that, as you didn't do that, well, you restart class because I'll never give you your grades." Yeah.
So, with all of these challenges, compounded by professor bribery, which, by the way, happens across the board at all universities in the Congo, where essentially we're seeing professors acting as gatekeepers, deciding who can get a degree, go on in life, and who remains in poverty. I pose to you this question: how do we change a broken system? Do you fight? Many students will resort to. This November 2016, the Congo will undergo its second round of democratic elections. As with many elections in developing countries, violence is a probability. Why? The students, the people, they're frustrated. They're hungry and desperate for change, for a new leader that finally supports their educational future. So they'll fight. There's even rumors that this round of elections might even spark another war in the country. Now, should there ever be another war, I had the privilege of leaving, but my students don't. The Congo is their home, and they're forced to stay despite even wars. Many will continue to maybe lose their lives, and others will continue to fight for a better education. After today's talk, I don't expect all of you to apply for a visa and book a ticket to the Congo. But if you're inspired, there are some short-term realistic solutions. The first, get involved. Do some research. Luckily, you have the internet to do that. There are hundreds of organizations out there that help institute educational tools in the Congo, which consist of finding solutions for electricity, sending textbooks. Off the top of my head, celebrities like Ben Affleck, Toronto NBA player Bismack Biyombo are affiliated with organizations that work for the Congo's initiative. Second, you could even start your own club right here at this very university, or any university out there. A club not only to raise awareness about education in Africa, but maybe you could fundraise. Send some of your old student computers and laptops to other students who would really need it in Africa. It will look great on your grad school applications too. I know many of you here today use some really high-tech stuff, MacBook Pros, Androids, but your 2007 Dell desktop or Dell Inspiron laptop just collecting dust in the corner of your room, it could mean the world for some students in Africa for their education. At this point, I've done a few interviews, and I've been asked a couple of times, well, isn't it just easier for your students to maybe give up, throw in the towel? And this is what they have to say to that. Can you give me your final thoughts on being a young student in the DRC?
Well, it's all about where you choose to belong. Quitting is a shortcut and it's easy. And I know only quitters never win and winners never quit. So I choose not to quit. And I know it's challenging, but I'll face the flow until I get it right. And I'm very positive, I'm crazily positive. I know in the future it'll be right.
Yeah, as what he said, myself, I'm not quitting my country. Even if it's very difficult to study here, I'm still fighting and I'm positive for my future. I know that I'll become what I want to become.
So the take-home message here is, if they can make it to class, so can you. Many people will get up here today and they'll tell you about their inspiring stories, maybe some harrowing pictures of when they traveled abroad, maybe some pictures of Africa where they helped build a well or a school. But the difference with me is I live this harrowing story. The Congo is my daily life. In fact, after today's talk, I'll be on the next flight back to the Congo. And, I work with these underprivileged students on a regular basis. And that's not to say that I'm any better than anyone else, but I hope that by me standing here, I offer you a real perspective on how the other half really lives, how other students carry out their day across the globe. Likely, many of you will go back to your warm homes tonight with electricity. The thought of corruption or violence likely never crossed your mind. In fact, many of you might even completely forget my TED Talk by dinner time tonight, and that's okay. But aside from our 18 minutes together, I hope, at the very least, you have gained a sense of appreciation. Appreciation for the fact that you have won the geographic lottery. You have won the winning ticket to live and study in a country that offers you the power to earn a yielding education with resources abundant at your fingertips, what thousands of other students across the world do not have access to simply because of where they are situated on the globe. And that, my friends, I believe, is the winning jackpot of life. The final word I would use to sum up the Congo is hope. I see hope in all of my students' eyes, even when I know they'll be going back to their dark homes to study for finals. But that hope is starting to fade. So I hope that after today, not only are you just a little more appreciative, but that you start the conversation for education. Not just for Rodney or for Anita, but for thousands of other students across Africa and the globe who are just fighting for their fair chance at a basic human right. And maybe then you will understand why in a dark room, why even a flashlight is still a symbol of hope. Thank you very much.